Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Christine Petcher, Director of Marketing here at Marketron. Today, we begin radio's digital transformation series with our first session, Develop a Vision and Prepare for Change. I'd like to point out a few housekeeping items before we begin. All participants are currently muted. We will be recording today's session, and all registrants will receive a copy of the recording after we conclude. We will have a Q&A session at the end and encourage you to submit your questions via the chat function. If we're not able to answer your question today, please be assured that we will have a Marketron representative follow up with you soon. I would like to introduce you now to your host for today. We have Jim Howard, CEO of Marketron, and Drew Horowitz, member of the board at Marketron and CEO of Gemini Strategies and Advisory. Thank you both for joining us today. Jim, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Christine. Hi, Drew. How you doing today?
Hi, Jim. Thanks for asking me to join you today.
My pleasure. It's great to have you. Well, so today we're going to talk about the challenges facing broadcast organizations and discuss some of the keys to meeting these challenges. Jumping right in, I'll kick off with some data on the state of the radio industry. Marketron has about 70% of the US radio market on our platform. And so we have enough data to understand what's happening across the industry very broadly. In the study we did, we pulled data for 153 different customers across all different sizes of markets and geographies. As no surprise to anybody, the market is down drastically. You can see that in February, we were off to something of a promising start for this year, where across the base, we saw almost 5% up year on year from February of 19. But then in March, we saw the impact of COVID hitting, down 18%, shocking numbers in April and May, down 56% in those months. And in June, we're starting to see an upswing. So we're starting to see some return, albeit still way down from June of 19 across the sector. You can also see from the data that large and major markets were more impacted than the mid and small. And in particular, you can see in April and May, there's a significant impact that in speaking with advertisers and customers, seems to be due to national advertisers, network, and particularly impacted from sports and events. Anything surprising to you here, Drew?
No, Jim, that's pretty reflective of what I've been seeing and talking to my colleagues. They are feeling that it's the worst may be over, but it's going to be extraordinarily choppy, and recovery is going to be very slow.
Looking at pacing, the picture is a little brighter. So, the overall market pacing down is about 30% as of mid-year. But, again, talking to customers, I spoke with Jeff London, our SVP of Services at Marketron, and his view is that annual pacing continued to erode, but it appears the customers are doing a respectable job of keeping and or adding money onto the books for future periods. So Q1 with a decent start to the year, disaster of a Q2, but there's a lot of runway still left in the year, and especially with political and some return from sports. Jeff's optimistic that pacing will actually improve in the second half of the year. So I don't know, Drew, if this is different information.
No, I think that's a fairly accurate depiction of where the back half. Again, I think people are feeling a little bit of optimism on the back half, but I think there's a concern on sustainability and how significant the recovery will be. Overall, it will be better than it was in the second quarter, but nothing that will be great, and hopefully give them some momentum going into 2020.
Right. We were talking about this yesterday, but economists are not suggesting a V-shaped recovery.
No, I don't think any letter of the alphabet's really going to fit the recovery.
Right. I was reading the sort of esoteric description of the inverse square root shape, which would be a significant drop followed by a return, not getting near to where it was, and then a very slow return as that long line brings us back. Well, why don't we jump into talking about the trend of ad dollars moving to digital? And I'm going to say something here that I think everybody understands. But in looking at this chart back in 19, there were headlines saying, that digital had eclipsed traditional media spend as of that year, and the growth in digital obviously is continuing very rapidly relative to traditional advertising. But my personal view is that in order for radio and broadcasters in general to survive, they need to start selling a more broad-based advertising product. Would you agree with that, Drew?
100%, Jim. I think diversity of platform is a critical component for the future for linear media. As we look at where the industry is going, pretty much, just speaking to radio, it's been flat to very modest growth, and nothing that's going to be sustaining a significant growth curve. So I think everyone's looking at alternative platforms to create additional revenue sources, and digital is just such a natural fit with linear media to expand the advertising base. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, in thinking about digital and the size of digital, from a total ad spend perspective in the U.S., digital is 7 times larger than radio. So from that perspective, it's a very attractive market to jump into. Just the potential is to go from selling into a small segment of the market to selling in a big piece of it. I think that when I think about the challenge of shifting from from something an organization's been doing for a long time and is shifting to something new, sometimes it just takes a kick in the pants to get there. And it feels like the market has changed from under radio, where radio has been this unique product, one of few advertising products left. But then there's danger of radio losing its competitiveness in the market with new digital products becoming available and a broader range of advertising products that are more targetable and more measurable, gaining entry into the market. So, I don't know, Drew, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I do. I think that radio has a fundamental position in the legacy space. It's a great reach and frequency medium that is also very locally driven. So those make the components of radio somewhat unique that really other platforms can't compete in the same way. What I think digital coming into the media mix does for radio is that brings the radio into the 21st century from a marketing and advertising program. That when you look at what digital does for the radio clients, it gives them an extension of what they may have been doing in the linear space to be competitive in the new digital space, and that they can build off of the marketing programs and images they've had before and expand them into the digital space and remain competitive in a way that if they were just singular in their marketing profile, they probably would be losing market share.
What's your view on the role of the agency in today's marketplace relative to the role of the broadcaster?
Well, the agency, I think, has an opportunity to become the ultimate resource for the broadcaster. Broadcasters aren't built to be able to be in that space. So I think the natural default is to go and empower the agency side of the business to help the clients would go to the agency side. I think the beauty is that with some of the offerings that are out there, which I think we'll be addressing, that those offerings give the radio companies a competitive advantage to not have to migrate to the agency. That they'll be able to make the total menu of offerings to their clients without giving that control up to the agency, which is what historically has happened. So again, depending on the client size and depending upon what the agency actually is contributing, the radio groups really have the potential to be in control of multiple platforms instead of being a singular platform offering.
Yeah, when I reflect on the way markets change and the way this market's changing, I think there is some danger of the agency down the street saying, we offer a broader range of products than your traditional broadcast organization. And by the way, we can do that broadcasting too. So we'll call them and buy some of that for you. But in the meantime, we're going to do all the creative, we're going to own the account relationship, and we're going to be the aggregator of all these products for you. And so one concern I've had for the radio industry is that over time, that incredibly powerful direct relationship with the advertiser that the radio organization has had all these years could be ceded sort of slowly and in a way nobody really realizes until it's happened, could be ceded to the agency down the street.
I agree. I think that's a huge threat to the local broadcasters in that they lose control. I think at the end of the day, the beauty of local radio has always been that they have the ability to generate that wonderful direct relationship with the client, which they then build the global marketing plan on. But what it appears to me would happen if they ceded that to the agencies. At that point, we know what happens. The agencies have a different agenda. Their agenda isn't the agenda of the client or the agenda of the radio broadcaster. They have the agenda for the agency. And we don't want to see that happen. I think that would be detrimental to radio's future growth, whether it's growth in the linear side or growth in the digital side. Once you cede that to the agency, they're not going to worry about what's good for you, or in a lot of cases, what's really good for the client.
It's so interesting the importance of owning that client relationship. It also is pricing power. So if the agency owns the relationship at some point, they call you and say, "Hey, we'll do the buy, but we can only do it at this price, or otherwise you're toast." Whereas if you have the direct relationship with the advertiser, you're able to sell the value of radio, which is incredibly high, right? It's the greatest reach medium ever created. And, the value of the creative, the value of the relationship between the broadcaster and the audience, incredibly valuable. And it all that is diminished when there's an arm's length between the end advertiser and the radio entity. And so, it just sort of has me thinking that there's a classic market situation where a disruptive technology has come in, digital. It's created a discontinuity. So the market's been growing. Now, all of a sudden, the market has gone flat. And there's this new technology in there. And there's this period where innovation is going to happen or not happen. And, in the theory of markets, the winners and losers in the marketplace in the next decade of the marketplace are going to be determined by those organizations who innovate. And I personally believe that, there's a tremendous opportunity and there's a tremendous time now for broadcasters to innovate and become the next generation of what broadcast is, which is offering broadcast plus a broader range of capabilities along with client relationship management creative. And those that do that will do very well moving forward. And those that don't, maybe not so much.
Agree, 100%, Jim. I think that's, you summed it up perfectly. You basically want to be able to offer your clients multiple platforms of marketing their product that you are controlling and are really looking out for the client's best interest, because again, to sustain the relationship, you have to deliver results. If you don't deliver results, the client's not going to stay. So you really control all the aspects of that in that model. When you allow a third party to come in, whoever that third party is, and you cede that control, that's when you end up getting into trouble because everybody's got different agendas. And I think radio has got to protect its real estate.
Yeah. Well, all right. So shifting gears to what to do about these challenges, maybe let's open in the second part of the discussion with with the assumption that everybody agrees it's time to change and that radio organizations are looking for models on how to make that happen. So with your indulgence, I'll start with the story of Marketron, and then we'll jump to Drew's experience of driving change at Hubbard. And in each of these stories, we'll look to talk about how we've taken an organization that's done something the same way for a long time and driven change in that organization. So I was part of the team that acquired Marketron. In looking at the company, we looked at a great company, but it wasn't growing any longer, and it had been doing the same thing for about 1 million years. And we also looked at the underlying market where we saw flat or slow decline moving forward, but a requirement to transform, and where transformation results in big growth. And so this created an opportunity for Marketron to really align very well with the customers. So if Marketron is in a position to enable our customers to transform, then we win when our customers win. So we're there to help assist our customers in making transformation and returning to rapid growth. So this is not a trivial challenge. We needed to build new software, wrap new services around the software, and gain adoption in a very large base of customers. Of course, we're also able to go out there and acquire new customers because we have more or less a single large competitor, and that large competitor had decided that, they're aiming at a programmatic system, meaning that they're going to aim at a system that doesn't want to have direct customer relationships, wants to, sort of minimize or eliminate the sales organizations and just drive everything through a program. We felt that was the wrong strategy. We wanted to aim at growth through innovation. And so this is, an exciting time. And we approach change in 3 ways. Number one, we developed a new strategy, and we'll talk about it a little later in the call today. And we wanted to make sure everybody in the company understood that strategy really thoroughly. So why the strategy, what alternatives there are, what our competition's doing, how we fit into the market, and then what's your part in getting that strategy to work. And that strategy requires continuous communication, iteration, detail, but continuous communication with everybody working at the company. We have a significant base of employees, many of who've been here for many years, and we want those employees to stay, and we want them to feel invested in what we're doing. The second thing we did was we changed the incentive program, and we mapped incentives of everybody in the organization to getting where we need to go. And in that, we're paying up. We're paying up front for the pieces that represent the change. And as a result, we created incentive systems where we were paying people to do things where we're way early, way before profitability, but we're setting their goals in their incentive systems so that they have lots of incentive to do that. For example, paying reps extra on the pieces that represent our future, even though the profit's not there for the segment yet. And third, we're committed to continually managing through the bumps. So as we set the strategy and we set all the plans to get to the strategy, there's always things that don't work out. And so, we needed to upskill the organization through training, collaboration between groups, investments in new hires and replacements. And we wanted our executive team to get personally involved in the details. So, we've had every member of our executive team talking with customers about very low-level detail about what it's going to take to make them successful. And then, of course, communicating and emphasizing change continuously across the organization and stamping out passive resistance. So the worst thing in the world is when you have somebody who gives a lip service to change and then doesn't want to do it. And you got to identify those people and work and move them along, or help them to find a new career where they're going to be happier, because we're here to drive change and we need everybody pulling on the same rope in the same direction. So, and it's working. So Drew, now on to you. So at Hubbard, you led one of the earliest transformations to digital and one of the most successful, if not the most successful in the industry. So we'd love to hear the story about how you approach that challenge.
Sure, I'm happy to do that, Jim. We were early adopters of digital in our respective markets. We didn't have a unified platform. It was kind of every market understood, because we would talk about it in our strategic planning sessions, that digital was going to be an important part of the future. That we were seeing that was a shiny new toy. Everybody, all our clients were calling saying, hey, I need to do digital, I need to do digital. So to meet the client's needs, which is what we are always here to do, each of the markets in their respective ways started to dabble in the digital space. One of our markets really embraced it, which was Cincinnati, and over about a 2 or 3 year period, they really created a very sophisticated digital marketing program, and we're seeing great results. And the rest of our markets were just dabbling and not doing that well with it. So I approached Ginny Morris, who was the CEO of the company. Dave Bessler, who's our CFO, was part of this as well. And we said, we think we need to create a digital solution for Hubbard. That we keep using third parties, they're expensive, we don't have control, and we really don't have an initiative that's consistent across the entire company. We discussed who would be the best person to be running that division, and it was the person from Cincinnati. The market manager there was really had embraced digital. So I flew him into Chicago, and we met and we talked about it, and he was totally on board. He wanted to be in charge of creating the Hubbard digital solution. And we sat down and we put together a business plan. That's fall, and presented it to the board in December, and they blessed it and gave us the startup money that we needed to begin the digital company, which was 2060 Digital, and we did it in Cincinnati. The good thing about Cincinnati, it's a lower cost market. It wasn't quite as expensive as we started it in Chicago or even Minneapolis. And we began building the infrastructure to support a digital solution for the entire Hubbard company that would base out of Cincinnati and then be operated individually in each market using the digital solution that was a corporate solution. We had our challenges. When we put a 5-year plan together, we would lose money the first 2 years, become profitable year 3, and implementation. Everybody had their own belief of what digital should be in each of the markets. And we received a lot of pushback from, well, we're doing it this way. Well, we're doing it this way. Well, we need to do it the same way. And as you know, that's always a challenge to get people, as you were pointing out in your own company, to buy in. And it took about a year to really get everybody on board. And then we realized that from the sales solution, that you can't have radio people selling a digital solution. A digital solution is a specialty solution. You need the client base for your radio people, but you can't have them be the digital expert. So in each of the markets, we hired a digital sales manager. Everybody had a different name for that person, but they were the person in charge of creating the digital solution for the clients. And we would add people as we were growing the digital revenue in each of the markets. It really, that was the way to go. So the salespeople had a stake and they got paid on the digital clients. The digital solutions person would get paid on that. So as you were alluding to earlier, it's expensive when you're starting up because you have to pay a premium. If you don't pay a premium, there's no incentive for people to go through all the extra effort to learn the process, execute the process, deliver the results. So for about 2 years, they received the premium commissions. We didn't make quite as much money because of that. But when you do this, when you make that transition, you have to have a long-term vision. If you're in a 1 or 2 year vision, don't do it because you're going to fail. If you understand it's a 3 to 5 year and onward from that, then you realize it's your startup costs, and it's always more expensive when you start up. And that was pretty much our approach, and we really had great results. I think it's the 6th year of 2060, and they're doing double-digit percentages of growth and profitability, and it's been a great win for Hope.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And when you'd said your goal was to be profitable in year 3, did you hit the goal?
Yeah, we actually became profitable, even though it was modest profits. We became profitable in year 2, because I think and you and I've talked about this offline, but I think one of the things that's been challenging for radio is attracting good sales talent. And because they look at radio as a little bit of a stodgy, old school sales protocol. And when we were able to offer them the ability to participate in a digital solution as well as a radio solution, they really were, new hires and the local sellers that we had were excited about that because they felt they were now creating a 21st century sales model for their clients. And that's been a great benefit to radio, I think, that by having digital as part of the total program, that we're able to attract the young talent that we need to reinvigorate the industry.
Loving it. And just a little detail on the comp. So when you set up the compensation, you were paying a little extra for the digital?
Yeah, we felt it, and it was really no different than what we did if we had a new radio startup, whenever we would start a new format. Obviously it's a tougher sell. You don't have numbers, everybody's wait and see. So to get people to come to work for you, you would always have to pay a higher commission rate. And that's what we did in the digital space. We paid a premium commission on the digital business with the understanding, and we were very upfront with everybody that this is probably a 2-year window. And at the end of the 2 years, those commissions are going to have to come back into a more normal range to make it work for everybody. And everybody was okay with that. They had 2 years of making pay and made good money, and they still were going to make good money. It just wasn't going to be quite as rich.
So jumping out of that, you and I talked yesterday about the idea of renewal rates from digital and sort of the change in the customer relationship when you're delivering digital versus, okay, we're going to do some spots, then we're going to do some new spots. Oh, that's done. Okay, let's call the client. Okay, that shift in the relationship, or the potential shift in the relationship with the customer when you're incorporating digital into broadcast.
The legacy way of selling would be, and that's just, I think that's just based on history. When you looked at the history of how radio and or TV was bought, it would be in flights, right? It would be, it's a 10-week buy, an 8-week buy, a 6-week buy, and then you went off. And then you would come on again 2 months later with a 10-week buy. And it was always a start and stop protocol in the legacy side. What we see in digital is the way it's built is that it's really 52 weeks. It's there all the time. You could crank it up when you need to have a more aggressive program going on, and then you can roll it back when you're just in the maintenance mode. But you have much more control over the ebb and flow of how digital rolls out. And then you could, create that integrated strategy with your legacy so that the digital cranks up if you have a legacy program going on, and then so you're really hitting it hard. And then you take the digital solution and it's a sustained program until the next ramp up, so that the client really can have a presence in the digital space all the time, and then use the legacy space for its sales or special promotions or whatever may be going on.
When I've seen this work well, and what seems to happen is that the discussion between the rep and the customer changes from, oh, what campaigns do you have coming up? Please give those to me and not to the radio guy down the street. It changes to, let's talk about your advertising strategy all in, and your annual advertising strategy, and where we're going to slot in some traditional broadcast slots, how we're going to deal with SEM as something that's a continuous piece, how are we going to deal with targeted ad buys, how we're going to work with display, and how those are going to be companion to the campaigns. And the idea that you're planning out your campaigns for the year early and working on an annual schedule, you're in a constant communication with that customer. It changes the nature of the communication from one of, I'm selling a campaign competitively against some guy down the street, to I'm managing an ongoing relationship where, we can be your entire provider of advertising products. And so, that's a big and important and critical shift. Selling something is so hard. Managing a relationship isn't easy, but it's a lot easier than going out there and finding the next customer or trying to sell every campaign against the guy down the street. It's just an iron cage match on every deal.
Well, you're selling a marketing program,
right?
It's not a marketing, it's not like a one-time, we're going to have a campaign.
Yeah.
This is a program. It's a program that's sustained over a long period of time, that has incremental starts and stops, but that there's consistency through the entire marketing time frame. And that's why I like to call it a digital marketing solution versus a campaign. Campaign has a beginning and an end. A marketing solution is something that's ongoing.
Love it. Okay. Well, so I'm just gonna finish. We have a couple of webinars out there that we have a webinar that announces Marketron's new products and services. We have a webinar that's a demo of the software. I'll outline them very quickly, and then we'll jump into the next stage here. So what Marketron has done is we've built a proposal system, create a unified radio and digital proposal, flows into orders. From there, it executes through traffic on radio. We go out and execute all the buys for our customers in the programmatic marketplaces. All that rolls back up into unified reporting, unified invoicing, AR integrations with your other software pieces. So that's the software. So it's a complete, all the way from quote to cash software product to enable all this digital execution in one product, unified capabilities. The two other legs of the stool, one is training and content. So we built up a very significant training and content program, to onboard reps, to teach them not just what is digital, but how to sell digital, how to change your sales approach to sell a broader range of things. And then the third is support. So we've gone from just tech support to sales support. So we've added a sales support component. Three legs of the stool. That's the new Marketron product, and it's aimed at enabling our customers to transform from just radio plus O&O to radio, O&O, and digital, powered by a single software platform with the training and the support legs. And having launched that, we were able to recruit Drew to our board.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm most impressed with what you've accomplished in the last 2 years. Your digital solution is phenomenal. I think as people evaluate it and look at it, it will give whatever your size, small or medium or large, it will give you a competitive advantage over that is amazing to be able to offer your clients a complete digital solution plus a traditional marketing solution and meet all their needs. And I was most impressed with it.
Thanks for the kind words, Drew. All right, so with that, let's jump into QA.
All right, thank you both so much. It does look like that Jim is having a little technical difficulties. He's going to try to jump back on. So Drew, I'm going to start directing some questions at you and put you in the hot spots. Just making sure you can hear me okay, Drew?
I am good.
Okay. So let me ask the first question that we have, and is that so you guys talked about that when a station is starting out that this is a process. So what do you see a typical timeline for incorporating digital into the business mix to be?
I would say normally it would take you through the guys who used to work for me, I had the 4-season rule that you go through the 4 seasons of business and that's part of the normal protocol. It will probably take the better part of a year from start to really being proficient into rolling out a successful program. You'll see, it will be kind of a ramp up. We'll start out slowly. You've got to get the buy-in from the staff. You've got to go through the training process. Again, depending what your solution is that you're going to utilize, but the Marketron digital solution is so perfectly built that it does everything for the seller, and I think that will accelerate the process a little bit. But I would say within the first 6 months, you'll be seeing some strong results, and then building momentum into the end of the first year of the cycle. And by year 2, it should be a significant part of the revenue stream of the company or the radio stations.
Wonderful. Christine, this is Jim. That's actually consistent with what we're seeing in the data. So, in the first 40 or 50 customers that we've seen, we definitely saw a few that didn't have quick pickup, but those that really focused on it within the first year, they were billing a good amount of revenue, and we saw significant growth in year 2 from year 1. So I concur with Drew's view.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Jerry, and it was asking, are your products owned and operated, or do you use third-party vendors, or a mix of both? Or how would you go about that recommendation in regards to other broadcast companies incorporating digital?
Well, again, I think it's a mix of both. And Jim probably could, go a little deeper on that aspect of it. But depending how comprehensive and how sophisticated you get in creating your digital solution for your company, that you'll still probably need to be getting some support, whether it's AWS or some of the other third-party suppliers. That you obviously will negotiate, or you're the most favorable deal for your company. But you do need to have some of the third-party support in different components of the platform. But again, that's really going to be controlled by you and the type of programs you're going to roll out for your respective markets. Jim, do you have any additional information on that you want to add?
Yeah, obviously owned and operated digital is is great. It's going to be a higher margin than the third-party digital, and so stations want to sell that first if they have it available. And so we at launch we've built support across third-party digital so that all that's integrated. As we are expanding the platform, we've built the initial integration with DoubleClick for Publishers, Triton, and AdsWiz. And so we're building in workflow to enable all that to work as well. So the idea for our platform is to enable both owned and operated and third party through the same platform, appear on the same invoice, show up in the same business reports, and so forth. And of course, our training will be primarily around third party because everybody has a different O&O mix. And so we can't really incorporate the training or sales support around O&O because everybody has a different set of products there. Christine, I hope that answered that question.
Yes, I think that was great. Thank you. So here's a great question coming in from Eric. How would a smaller local station compete with potentially a local digital giant in their market?
It's a great question. Drew, maybe I'll jump first here and then you can
go ahead.
add.
Yep.
So what's fascinating is that a local station should have things that a digital giant won't have. So one of the things that a local station has is, the ability to have specialized content, specialized promotions in the broadcast world that large, that larger entity won't have. The second thing is that the broadcaster has the ability to be very nimble and flexible and most likely much lower priced than that large competitor down the street. And the reason I say that is that, the local broadcaster is buying at Marketron's prices, and Marketron buys at tremendous capacity. And so we have the ability to buy that media at a rate that is as good or probably better than what the large agency down the street is able to buy at. So the services provided, the advertising services, the creative services, we help with that. So Marketron's able to provide digital creative around display. We're about to launch digital video advertising. We'll launch that in the fall. And so you have price advantage. You have a broader range of capabilities when you add in things like promotions and email lists and text club from the radio station. So I think all those make the product very competitive in the marketplace, even when you're selling against a large agency down the street.
Great. Thank you. So kind of along that vein, what are you guys seeing as some of the more successful and in-demand digital products for the radio stations to develop and sell?
Well, we've seen the display as sort of the number one and geofenced mobile as number two. Those are generally the biggies that the radio groups are selling. Now, there's a lot of other stuff out there, pre and post roll, connected TV, but the display and the targeted geo are very straightforward and are excellent companion products along with the with the existing radio products.
Wonderful. And Drew, do you kind of see that the same on your end?
Yeah, I think I love the geofencing component in the Marketron platform is fabulous and is really very directed to the local retail accounts that you really could hyper focus your strategy to your geographic area. And I am convinced that anybody you're selling in your respective market, when you share that capability with them, they will just go crazy, because again, a lot of things that we hear are, is it targeted? Am I paying for areas I don't need to pay for? Am I getting full maximization of my ad campaign? I'm not sure what's working. Well, when you see the geo component of this, it dispels all of that for the client. And it's a type of component, especially if you're in a medium and smaller market selling situation, that will get that client to be a long-term advertiser that will be totally supportive of you, because you are putting people into their store or into their car dealership that are going to be, geographically friendly to where they are, and giving them the capability to close that business. So I would say the other thing would be, when you look at the total digital platform, that social media management was something that I saw a high demand for, and that tends to be a little bit more sophisticated and has a little bit more of a cost factor involved in it. But clients really like, at least when within the Hubbard model, clients really like the social media management component. That had high value and was sustainable business as well.
Thank you, Drew. So this is all the time we do have for today. Please know if your question wasn't answered, we will have someone reach out to you soon and answer those for you. I want to thank Jim and Drew for their time and their insight today. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We will be sending an email that contains the complete recording of today's webinar, along with the download of our digital transformation playbook. We do hope that you're going to join us for part 2 of this series on August 6th, where we're going to discuss designing your digital product suite. The registration link can be found in the chat box, so please give that a click, and we hope we'll see you on August 6th. And thank you again, everyone, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.